I'm the Executive Director of the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. For those of you who don't know who we are, I'd like to take a moment to introduce my fabulous colleagues joining me. Rebecca Shelley is the Executive Director of the Grimsby Chamber. Denise Potter is the Executive Director of the West Lincoln Chamber, and Dolores Fabiano is the Executive Director of the South Niagara Chambers. We only have an hour, but before we get started, I'm going to provide a little bit of details about how this event will run. The attendees here will give a brief introduction to our regional councillors, followed by their presentations, as each of our 4 regional councillors will provide a quick overview of what's happening at the regional level. Following all presentations, we will have a short question and answer period. If you have a question, you can submit it using the chat function. It's located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Our moderator, Rebecca, will be going through the questions and will be asking on your behalf. We're all familiar with Zoom by now, but we recommend that you set your view to speaker. That option can be found in the top right corner of your screen. This event is recording and it will be available on our West Niagara Chambers YouTube page. And now we are pleased to get started as we welcome the 4 regional councillors who represent the West Niagara area. First up, Rebecca Shelley.
Thank you, Lindsey. My name, as Lindsey mentioned, is Rebecca Shelley. I'm the Executive Director with the Grimsby and District Chamber, and I have the distinct honor to be able to introduce the Regional Councillor for Grimsby, and that's Councillor Wayne Fertich. So Councillor Fertich is completing 17 years as an alderman and regional councillor as a representative for Grimsby. He is presently the Vice Chair of Public Works, the Vice Chair of Linking Niagara Transit, and Chair of the Transportation Strategy Steering Committee at the region. Councillor Fertich is a veteran RCAF and a member of the Royal Canadian Legion for 46 years. He is also a member with the Grimsby Rotary Club, and he has received a certificate for Passion to Excel from the Lions International President, as well as receiving the Paul Harris Fellow Award in 2011 from Rotary International. Councillor Fertich looks forward to assisting all constituents and to continuing to serve you.
I thank you, Rebecca, for that outstanding performance. I want to take a couple of seconds here because we don't, the constituents don't know how well represented Niagara West is. We're lucky to have today our chairman of the Planning and Economical Development, Diana Huson, as well as the vice chair, Albert Whittivine, who's on the Planning and Economical Development, but also Councillor Foster, who's on the Corporate Services Committee, which is one of the pretty I'm going to say outstanding, but certainly is one of the main subcommittees of the Niagara region. So, and I just want to mention to the constituents how well represented Niagara West is, and it's a real honor to be able to have all 4 of us together, but certainly to be working with people of such a high statute that the region deserves, and we certainly have pushed a lot of buttons along the way in order to make things happen for everybody. But what I'm going to touch with today is the Vision Zero Committee program that started actually back in 2020, I believe it was about 3 years ago. But having said that, the review that the Niagara region had the collision data to date shows that the total number of collisions are continuously increasing in Niagara on Niagara regional roads. Niagara region experiences a high collision fatality rate when compared to other jurisdictions in Southern Ontario. This Vision Zero program is a multinational road traffic safety project that aims to achieve a road network with no fatalities or serious injuries involving road traffic. One of the changes to the original agreement was that 50% of the net revenues would be retained by the Niagara region, and other 50% of the net regions are shared with the local area municipalities. This is a severe step forward, and we should be adopting this Vision Zero road safety plan in Niagara, helping to reduce driving and speeding. And speeding, I want to emphasize that because that's all I've heard from, never mind my constituents, but also from my local councillors. Speeding is a problem. And it's within the Niagara region. And we're really concerned about having these speeding zones where there are schools on regional roads. I'm going to give you another example of some issues in another, actually in York region. You know, it doesn't require anybody to sit in a car watching traffic all the time, because that's what kind of program this is. It's nothing to do with increasing the number of police on the job. Enforcement statistics show that over the past 5 years, speeding is the top traffic violation, representing more than 60% of all traffic concerns and offenses. The automated speed enforcement is not cheap, but how can you put a dollar sign on a life? Ontario only began allowing municipalities to use this program in 2020 after the province enacted Bill 65, the Safer School Zone Act in 2017. Since then, York Region, as an example, has begun using 12, only 12, no more than what we have, in prioritizing areas near schools. These cameras are related and shared amongst the region's 9 municipalities, which is almost exactly the number that we have. We have 12, but they have 9. Going from there, we're looking forward to Director Ryle in completing her presentations to the LAMs, the local area municipalities, and I believe there's 3 left. Also, I want to just touch bases on the Niagara transit system, and I know a lot of us that already have programs. I think there's only maybe one, if there is that many, 1 or 2 that aren't part of the program. Currently, every town and city from Niagara Falls and Grimsby to Fort Erie, they have their own bus system, which makes it difficult to get from one place in Niagara to another. The new amalgamated system is expected to be up and running by January 2023. So do you know you'd be able to go from Grimsby to Fort Erie for $6? Where can that happen? Like, that is fabulous. You go right downtown, you get a transfer in St. Catharines, and you go to Fort Erie. This is what your region has been taken and done, and us councillors have supported this 100%. Transportation is a real need within our region. So without further ado, I'm going to suggest to you that if anybody has any questions, I can certainly try and answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to go right into the introduction for Councillor Rob Foster. It's my pleasure to introduce him. He was elected to Niagara Regional Council in 2018 after 18 years as a Lincoln Town Council member. Rob retired in 2019 from an extensive career of over 40 years in information technology as a senior IT manager, both in the media industry and in healthcare. He currently manages consulting work with small businesses regarding social media and web platforms and has taken on a teaching position at Niagara College. At Niagara Region, he chairs a corporate services committee, and he is the region's representative on SWIFT, the Internet for Rural Areas initiative in southwestern Ontario. Rob also represents the interests of Niagara at AMO, which is the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, which is an advocacy group for municipal matters within the province of Ontario. At AMO, he chaired the digital task force. Councillor Foster, over to you.
Well, thanks a lot, Lindsay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our event this afternoon. And for you that are chamber members, I just want to say you're very fortunate to have the executive directors that you do. They make events like this go very smoothly for us, and I really appreciate the work that Lindsay and Rebecca and everyone that are the EDs have been doing for us. So thank you very much. I want to start with sort of a quick note, and I think all of us as councillors can say we're not very pleased with the violence that has been put towards a councillor in St. Catharines in the last little bit. You know, it's one thing to disagree with what your politicians are talking about and the issues that they're dealing with, but physical violence is something that should not happen in any situation. And I think all of us will confidently say that you know, we are not happy about this in any way, shape, or form. There will be a motion coming forward at Corporate Services at Niagara Region at our next meeting to go along with our fellow councillors from St. Catharines to essentially tell the community this is just simply not acceptable. So here we are in 2022, and we as councillors continue to work with staff on the area of public health issues. It is our hope, and I am sure all of yours as well, that we are entering the home stretch and that we'll regain a positive sense and return to normalcy with the provincial easing that is now underway. Governance, policy, and procedures at Niagara Region have been improved dramatically since the last term of council, with the goal of ensuring the region continues to improve for the benefit of all of our citizens. With considerable input from your West End councillors, we have hired through an open and transparent process our new Chief Administrative Officer. While he is a familiar face, Ron Tripp is now tasked by Niagara Region to ensure our organization is as efficient as it can be and focused on the needs of our communities. The legacy project of the Canada Summer Games is on target for the upcoming summer. Athletes from across Canada will be here in Niagara with all of our municipalities participating. And I would be remiss to not mention the investments happening as we speak in broadband infrastructure. Projects in all 4 of our municipalities through the SWIFT project, private investing by internet service providers across Niagara, with our own NWIC here in Lincoln being a prime example, and additional funding coming to municipalities through new provincial programs are well underway. We will start seeing the effects of these investments throughout this upcoming year. I want to spend the next part of my discussion talking about the Niagara Region budget. We were flipping coins on who was going to talk about what ahead of this, and I got the budget issue. So, you know, please be nice to me as I go through and talk about where it is we are with budget. But actually, to be quite honest, it's a very, very good news story. Has been the case throughout the pandemic, our council has made a series of difficult choices to mitigate the regional taxation portion of your tax bill. We were able to reduce from well over 4% down to 2.7%. But when we make these choices, it means pressures on future budgets. If we see the economic development predicted that is going to be happening in Niagara, this will not be a problem in the future. Budget increases include 2.3 million for bridge housing and permanent supportive housing, significant contributions to hospitals, both here in West Niagara, which we all know about, but also for a new hospital in South Niagara. We provided a grant for hospice care expansion for McNally House. There's 10.5 million in additional funding for police services that are coming into play this year. And over 325 million in capital improvements are being made. Much of this in the water and wastewater treatment areas, new facilities, and long overdue upgrades. As an example of the work that we have been doing here in Niagara West, Niagara Region is in the process of opening a new water storage facility that is located on the escarpment in the east end of Grimsby. This facility is critical for the long-term water needs of Grimsby, Lincoln, and West Lincoln, and it was an investment that was approved by this council, and we have followed through with that. So with that, thank you very much for participating in the town hall today, and I also look forward to questions later in this discussion. Thanks, Lindsey.
All right, I think I'll take it from here. Thank you so much, Rob. I'm going to introduce our next councillor, Diana Huson. So Diana has been a lifelong resident of the Niagara region and currently works at Brock University. Diana has an extensive background in marketing communications and administrative management. She's also a graduate of Brock University, having a master's degree in political science with a specialization in public policy and also an MBA. Her academic research focused on Niagara's economic development model and institutional change. She has a strong focus on operations management, strategic planning, and effective governance, and has been a passionate advocate for women's issues and inclusion in Niagara politics. She's currently serving her first term on Regional Council, is chair of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, chair of the Women's Advisory Committee, and a board member on the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. She was also recently elected to the Ontario Caucus of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Take it away, Diana.
Thank you very much, Dolores. And I want to echo my thanks to the various chambers for putting this on as well. And also compliments to my colleagues in terms of what an honor and a pleasure it is to work with all of you. So my task today, I think tapping into my role as the chair of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, is I get to give a bit of an update on what's happening with our the new official plan, as well as speaking to the natural heritage component, which got quite a bit of public attention in terms of what the region decided to adopt as a policy. So just as a general overview for those of you who may not be familiar, the official plan defines how Niagara will use its available land to shape development over the next 30 years. And this policy aims to identify how and where that growth will happen. It'll help protect our natural environment and address our changing climate. It will ensure Niagara has an adequate and diverse supply of affordable housing, plan for future infrastructure needs, and also ensure that it's properly funded, and also create the right conditions to attract and retain jobs in Niagara. So reflecting on that extremely important piece of policy for our region. It's the first time the plan's been comprehensively reviewed, so in totality in nearly 50 years. And it includes important aspects such as our growth allocations, housing, transportation, urban design, agriculture, the employment lands. We just recently approved a draft comprehensive plan. It has been under review and development over the last few years. So we now have a final opportunity to gather public input, and there are two further upcoming public information centers, which there's one on February the 10th and another one on the February the 24th. These information centers are posted online on the region's website. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to share the details of where you can find the plan, as well as the details of those public information centers. But we're looking for final input before the final plan is approved and submitted to the province by the July deadline for final approval. An important part of that plan was our natural environment system. The natural environment system integrated both a natural heritage component as well as our water resource system. These are requirements by the province. It includes provincial heritage systems, hydrological features such as wetlands and watercourses. It also includes natural heritage features such as woodlands and valleylands, and hydrological areas and other water resource features. Council was presented with a couple of options in terms of the type of policies we wanted to adopt, and I'm not sure if some of the attendees were paying attention to the 3B, 3C debate. We did end up landing on the 3C model of the natural environment system. And I just want to point out that the main difference between the 3B and the 3C model was that the 3C model contained linkages between natural spaces in urban areas. So what Niagara region has adopted or is aiming to adopt is really a systems-based approach to recognizing our natural spaces and our both green and water areas and how they connect throughout Niagara. So the next step in terms of the official plan, as I mentioned, we do have a couple of more information centers that I would welcome you to attend and provide some final input on. Those are happening quite shortly. Once that plan is submitted and approved by the province, there will be a year where actually then the lower tier municipalities have to develop a secondary plan, which will be more refined and look at more site-specific policies in terms of what's going to be developed or the potential for development in each municipality. And I'm sure there will be lots of opportunities to provide subsequent public input on those draft plans, but all very important, recognizing that Niagara has been projected to grow almost double in population by 2051. And we want to make a very strong effort to retain the features of Niagara that we think are unique and need to be protected, but also provide the right policies that speak to our housing needs and our transportation needs and servicing the population. I didn't have it on as an agenda topic, but I am just going to touch on it lightly. I do want to give kudos to our economic development team. I think Linda is an attendee today. So hi, Linda. Our ECDev has really expanded their mandate in the last couple of years, really as a direct in response to the pandemic and how it's affected our local businesses and recognizing the great need for supporting our local businesses. So they've seen a bit of an expanded role in terms of what they normally provide and have been really involved in terms of supporting some of the shop local campaigns that we're seeing in all of our communities. So I'm just going to give a big shout out to ECDev. I know they've been working with our chambers and trying to make things easier for our local businesses. And I'm just really happy to see that the work that's being done there. Thank you very much, and happy to take questions at the end of the presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Diana, very much. My name is Denise Potter, and I'm the Executive Director of the West Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. And it's my pleasure to introduce Albert Woodaving. Albert has been a resident of Niagara for 40 years and has resided in West Lincoln as a farmer. He has been involved in the Niagara Federation of Agriculture and has been involved in his community throughout this time. Albert has served as a municipal councillor for the period between 2000 and 2006, and presently he is in his second year of being a Niagara Regional Councillor representing West Lincoln. Albert sits on a number of committees at the region, being Public Works, Public Health, Planning and Economic Development, Waste Management Steering, and chairs the Agriculture Policy Action Committee. As for involvement outside of Niagara region, he sits as a commissioner on the Niagara Escarpment Board and vice chair of the Greater Golden Horseshoe Food and Farming Alliance. He has strong dedication and love towards his local community and all of Niagara. Albert, take it away.
Thank you, Denise, for that introduction. And yes, looks like I have my 5-minute time window here. So I'd like to thank everybody for attending this afternoon to engage with us. So I'd just like to start. Obviously, my strength is in the agriculture community, which is a $1.8 billion industry here in Niagara. So I'd just like to start with updating you of what we've been working on. So there's a team of agriculture representatives working on supplying raw water for irrigation here in the West End. And so the last number of years we've been forging on through COVID and been quite successful. Been working with Public Works, Niagara Region's Public Works staff, and OPG and Ag Canada's, and we're looking at models to supply this resource to our farmers, mainly below the escarpment. So we know people, the town of Lincoln, is heavily agriculture and greenbelt. So currently we're addressing governance models for establishing a water utility, looking at examples of Leamington and out west. So we feel that this is quite timely because it also, as Diana touched on, it supports climate change measures that have been set out by the federal government, and we will be implementing them. So we're thankful as a group and as agriculture for the support from Lincoln Council, Niagara Region, and our local commodity boards in moving this project forward. So obviously our objective is to build infrastructure to support farmers in the Greenbelt to secure the need of the Greenbelt from possibly development pressure from provincial government, and also to spur further investment. So as Denise had said, in the past year, I've actually been selected as the chair. So now as in 2022, I'm the chair of the Golden Horseshoe Food and Farming Alliance. And we basically represent, just for those that may not know the group, we represent 6 regions around the Golden Horseshoe. So we've also been working on a number of initiatives, introducing a pilot procurement policy to provide local food to long-term care facilities. And this pilot program has been completed and circulated to respective agencies to look at and be adopted to support local food in this. We've also developed policy papers, including event barns and on-farm diversified uses in conjunction with OMAFRA so that through the value added on agriculture. So these policy papers will help local planners understand what works well from a land use perspective, and will also help our agriculture community evolve and grow as new market opportunities evolve at the farm level. So we're presently working through a consultative process here, as Diana mentioned, through our official plan. We're commenting on lands-based needs for employment growth, residential, but also protecting agricultural land and natural features that we all here enjoy in Niagara. So we're working on some messaging. The Golden Horseshoe is working on some messaging, as we know that we're going into a federal election this early summer, and we're going to advocate for obviously better rural internet services. This is very important to us, to all residents of Niagara, and a big one for agriculture is our workforce. And I know many people, businesses in the chambers here, securing employment is challenging. But we have a program through the Temporary Farm Workers Program to maintain and harvest our local crops. So of course we'll be working with public health to make sure that this goes smoothly as we go into another season. So just a quick update on our community services. I sit there. So we're just working through some initiatives through the Community Homelessness Prevention Initiative Plan. And some of the highlights, we received funding equivalent to what was received in the last number of years from the province over which will run April to April, which is their budget year. Niagara Region will be topping up close to 2 million out of the levy to assist with the program. And it should be noted that the Niagara Region works collaboratively with 18 agencies throughout Niagara to deliver this service and to support the residents in Niagara. And as for the childcare strategy, many of you know, in Ontario is the last province to sign up in this strategy, which we, from Chamber and Employment know that it's a childcare strategy is important for working mothers and working families. So we'll have to wait and see, and hopefully we can lobby our MPPs in the spring election to I guess implement this strategy so that in Niagara we can address that strategy and then look at the needs of licensing daycares and how many spaces we need to add to this. So last, just want to kind of touch on the climate change here in Niagara. Diana kind of mentioned it through the official plan, so I'm going to kind of, I guess, speak about it from planning through kind of a bit of an agriculture lens here. So as we work through this official plan, as Diana said, we've taken a stronger approach to protecting our natural heritage features in the future growth of the region. So some discussion came up about the canopy cover and how can we protect water features and mitigate basically flooding from weather events or in the climate change context. And so I just want to let you know that that our canopy coverage, which is today is 17%, yet is being enhanced. So because Niagara is unique, we have about 25,000 acres of vineyards, orchards, contributing to the provincial food system and also provides that ecological benefit to Niagara. So, and as we know, of the 25,000 acres, approximately 20% of it is green belted area. So put it in perspective, agriculture adds 29% perennial vegetative cover to the region, with the 17% up there, which gives us about a 34 to 35% vegetative canopy cover. So I just believe this information is important as we move forward and plan to try to mitigate climate change. And also this is why providing raw water for irrigation will be the longevity of the industry, but also enhance a better use of those resources. So that's my update here this afternoon, and be more than willing to take questions from anybody in the group. So
fantastic. Thank you, Albert, for wrapping that up. And thanks to all the counselors for your presentations. I know it's a lot of material to cover in a very short amount of time. We're going to move into now the Q&A section of our session. So we'll be posing questions that were submitted to the chambers in advance, followed by questions from the chat function if time permits. So don't hesitate to put your questions in the chat, and if we have time to get to them, we certainly will. I would like to remind everyone as well at this point in time that we realize there's a lot of information that's coming your way in this session. And there's lots of questions and points of discussion around all these topics that the counselors have covered so far, and many, many more. So this, just a reminder too, this session is really the beginning of a conversation. We encourage anyone who has would like more information, has further questions that we can't get to, please do reach out to your regional counselor or your regional council representative and continue this discussion. To that end, we will be sending out the counselor's contact information after the event, along with the link to this recording if you'd like to view it again. So I think what's been really interesting about the questions that have come in, we've had a few very municipal specific questions, but there's a lot of very interesting, broad reaching topics that people are interested in. So some of them I'm just going to kind of throw them out there and let the counselors jump in as they will to answer them. And some of them it makes sense to direct to a specific person. So we'll get started with a question that has come in for Councillor Fertich. Councillor Fertich, someone has asked that Vision Zero failed to get Town of Grimsby approval to proceed. Does this mean that the program cannot proceed at the regional level? And another question came in that's kind of tied into that too, and that's how can residents connect with the Vision Zero project at the regional level? So over to you, Councillor Fertich.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you very much for the question. I guess number one is that even though Grimsby has voted it down, no, that doesn't mean to say that the program is completely squashed by the entire region. That is totally wrong. Legal is looking at other areas whereby that we're hoping, I'm saying we as the region, I'm sure are hoping that the municipality comes back to the table and addresses it, and hopefully getting a vote for it. Having said that, we don't want anybody to not have the opportunity to have this program. This program cost nothing, cost zero. And all I want to do is to enforce you that it's for the benefit of the pedestrians that are crossing the road. We need this in Grimsby. We've got 3 schools right on regional roads that need this sort of protection. Thank God and thank the Lord that nobody to date has been seriously hurt. You know, I certainly don't want, nobody wants this. So to answer the first question is, I would say that at the end of the day, if Grimsby does not want it, I would suggest that there could be a strong possibility that the rest of the region would go forward with it. And when Grimsby is prepared to maybe look at accepting the program, that they could come back into the program. Having said that, when would that be done? I don't know. All I can say, and I'll be quite frank with you, there's an election coming up in a little period of time, and let's hope that some of the changes might be in favor of the residents of Grimsby. Sorry, and did I answer? Did you have another question? Sorry, Rebecca.
No, that's all right. This is great information. Thank you, Councillor Fertich. I think the next part of that question was really more about how can residents in Niagara get more information and engage with the Vision Zero project, regardless of the municipality that they're from.
I would say if you really want to say a copy of the presentation, I can certainly get it for you. I don't think there's any direct input other than getting after your own municipal councillors to support the program. I think that's the best thing you can do. Put the pressure on them to support the program if that's what you want. That would be what I would suggest. At the region level, it's not at the region level right now. We know where Grimsby stands. We don't like it. Let's move on with this, please.
Fantastic. Some great comments there, Councillor Fertich, and I think a lot of interest in this particular topic for sure. So this next question covers quite a few different areas. So I'm going to open it up to whichever councillor feels strongly about jumping in to answer it. And the question is, how can regional and lower tier public works projects, design and operations, for example, snow clearing, sidewalk placement, traffic calming, complete streets, pedestrian safety, cyclist safety, etc., work together, avoiding contradictory efforts and ensuring that citizens have the safest possible walkable and active transportation options?
Rebecca, I'll jump in first. That's a very broad question, to say the least. I know for a fact, and I'm sure it's the same in all of the municipalities here in Niagara West, but the Public Works group at Niagara Region do work closely with the Public Works at the town of Lincoln on the projects that are going on and that are being developed. The biggest problem that we have these days from a Public Works point of view is that there is so much need in so many municipalities across Niagara. We're going to be spending this year we're into over 88 million on roads and bridges throughout Niagara. And yet it's still not enough. The last estimate that we had is that to really properly do everything, to get everything up to date, is in about a $500 million range. So there's a number of years worth of work that are going to be going into play with this. As far as snow plowing and things like that go on, and of course we always get why is the town truck driving down the regional road with his plow up or vice versa? The thing is that it comes to liability within things. The regional road is governed by the region. The township roads and the town roads are governed by the towns. And if something were to happen with the machinery in areas that we don't have responsibility for, it could be a big problem. So just general comments. So I'll stop there. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Rob. I know it's a very multifaceted issue and a question I think that the tendrils go out into many different areas for sure. This
Rebecca,
question, sorry.
Rebecca,
Yes,
I just want to pipe in here.
sure.
The last snow days that we had last week, the municipality, as an example, Main Street is the responsibility of the region. The municipality went in and cleaned all of the side onto Main Street, cleaned the sidewalks, cleaned the side of the road, and made it extremely passable. And that's the way it should be in your downtown core. The region worked in conjunction with and supported the municipality to do that. So there is ways for the municipalities to work with the region. I believe the region has subsidized them for the cost of doing that within their budgets. So that's a good example of the region and the municipalities working together. I just wanted to add that. Sorry. Thanks, Councillor Foster.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Councillor Fertich, and certainly the idea of cooperation and collaboration is one that we love to hear about here at the Chambers. So it's good to know it's happening in our region and between our municipalities as well. The next question that's come in, it actually came in, I think this one would specifically, even though it's not the topic of discussion necessarily that Councillor Witteveen was talking about, but it is around from Smithville. So I'll kind of hand it over to him unless anybody else wants to jump in. Somebody would like to know where they can get a current update on the Smithville boundary expansion and how does that play into, I guess, what's happening at the regional level? What input is the region having on that particular piece?
Albert, did you want to handle that or do you want me to answer it?
Did we lose Albert?
Oh, we might have lost. I'm happy to handle
Wonderful,
it.
thank you.
Yeah, so any area, keeping in mind, again, we were given growth projections from the province, and as a result for that, we have to plan appropriately for any type of population increase and where people are going to live and how they're going to navigate around Niagara. So part of that process is that there were some urban boundary expansions considered. Smithville is one of those areas. Some of the lands considered as part of that process were requested either by private landowners or by the city. And in reviewing those areas, regional staff looked at what makes the most sense in terms of connecting into existing infrastructure so that whatever, as well as protecting things like that natural systems plan that we put into place, recognizing that that's an off limits area, So what is appropriate in terms of the lands that could be used to add or address the growth that has been projected for Niagara? So there was an area in Smithville that was approved for an urban boundary expansion. Again, it has been approved as part of the draft official plan, and there is still an opportunity to provide feedback as to whether or not that could be appropriate, or where there may be concerns around directing growth at those types of areas. So if that is something of interest to you, I will drop the website link for our official plan. It has everything to do with the official plan, including links to mapping tools that you can zoom in and look at specific areas of Niagara and what kind of features are there. And there's the open house on the 10th, which is actually specific to the natural environment, but there's also one on the 24th, which has to do with the draft consolidated plan. And of course, our staff are still taking any type of correspondence or emails, or you can send it through your counselors if you have concerns or questions or want to provide feedback on any of these areas. So I'll drop the link in the chat, but I hope that addresses the question.
That's
Rebecca-
wonderful. Thank you.
Rebecca,
Sorry.
can I just add to that?
Yes, by all means.
This question has kind of stumbled into an area that that is really important to Niagara at this point. And as Diana said, you know, there's a lot of people coming to Niagara, and there's going to be a lot, and there's going to be a lot of development, and there's going to be a lot of challenges that come along with this. Grimsby's already seeing this with the building up of the Grimsby community. Lincoln, we're starting to go through it here as well. The build up of the community. There's no more land. We're on fixed boundaries that are going on within these municipalities. Thorold, I'm not so sure. Sorry, not Thorold. Pelham, I'm not so sure, Diana, with that. But there is limited land available in basically for expansion in Thorold as well. West Lincoln is one of the key areas that there will be some expansion in the future, and there's a couple of other municipalities as well. So this is a real major issue, and it's going to become a real major discussion point for everyone over the course of the next few months as we're looking at this.
Thank you. Yes, we absolutely agree, Councillor Foster. This is a really important issue. I think I'm seeing Albert's back. Councillor Witteveen, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, just sorry, I apologize, but we had a power glitch here, so I got kicked off the internet. But I just wanted to add that comment to Councillor Foster and Huson. And this, maybe I missed it, but it's to also help support the north-south access. We know in West Niagara, maybe, you know, of our challenges with, what's called commercial traffic going through our downtown areas as a public safety and also for, you know, kind of traffic management. So I guess the thing is, we don't see growth above the escarpment. It's pretty hard to argue a north-south access to basically help West Lincoln, but also help solve two, I call them major issues, being a longtime resident, that this has been on the radar for a long time, and a solution is there before us, and we're all on board and we're lobbying, and it's a real collaborative approach. So just wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for jumping in on that as well. This next question, I think it might be a tandem answer from either Councillor Houston or with Councillor Houston and Councillor Foster. And it's a really interesting one about recovery and economic development. How important is Niagara's tourism? How important to Niagara's tourism recovery is the Niagara Gateway Information Center? Strategically located at the QEW in Casablanca, it is now the only tourism facility on the QEW, serving thousands of Niagara visitors.
Do you want to jump in first, Diana, or shall I? It's your choice.
Go for it, Rob.
Okay. Well, first of all, what your lead into the question, tourism is a huge, huge industry in Niagara. And of course, we've all sort of taken the brunt of things with the crisis that we've had to work through over the last, somebody said the other day, 690 days or whatever it is now. Yeah, gateway and providing information to people is important, but I think we can go one step further. I think the initiatives that are going on at Niagara Region on the whole economic development front, the promotion of information in and across Ontario, I would suggest to you that this has been a prime thing that we at the region have been looking at. And we have been funding things appropriately as well. I mean, it's one of those areas when we get into the discussions, particularly with budget, we have made sure that we have adequate funding so that we can continue the processes that it is that we're doing. The lower tier municipalities have been doing good jobs within this entire area. I would say I'm going to brag it up a little bit. I think Lincoln has been outstanding in where they've gone with things. Grimsby, unfortunately, they just recently lost the fellow who was the economic development officer, which is very unfortunate. Mr. June, he was excellent as well, and it's too bad passed way before his time. But anyway, long story short, these areas are being funded well, and it's our intention to make sure that Niagara becomes and remains a prime focus for tourism in Ontario.
Yeah, so I'm going to agree with all of that. I'm also going to point out that the pandemic probably highlighted how important it is not just to support our tourism sector, but also to diversify our economy, recognizing that our tourism sector is a great source of jobs, but they lean towards lower paying jobs, and also that we need to Niagara needs to be attractive in a way that people are coming here and staying for more than one day, that they're staying over the night and they're visiting multiple places, that there's more to Niagara than Niagara Falls, and that there's municipalities across Niagara that have a wealth of resources and things to do and places to see and places to visit. So there's definitely a need to highlight what's happening across Niagara and in some of our other municipalities aside from Niagara Falls, but also to support the business sector. And I think that the gateway is important, but it's also important to diversify the communications about everything else that's happening in Niagara and what's available to visitors. So I hope that answered the question.
Thank you both, and thank you, particularly representing Grimsby here, Councillor Foster. Your comments about Adam June were well taken, and we were very sorry to lose him. He was an excellent partner of business in Grimsby. We are almost at time, so I'm going to wrap it up with one last question that I will hand it over to probably Councillor Whitby to answer. It's a question that came in direct through the chat. And it was asking for a little bit more information about your the local agricultural pilot to support long-term care homes, and just some more information about that project and potentially how the community can support those efforts.
Yeah, simple question. There was Hamilton just finished their pilot project, and it was because the concern was always with, we'll say, regionally or regional owned facilities, that it was just the procurement policies were not in favor to support local food, because the argument was it was cheaper to outsource it. But this pilot project, what it did is it showed that sourcing out local food was really no difference. And so we were looking for that local support of the food chain, but also the health factor, it doesn't have to travel 1,000 miles. And so that had to be proven, so that now, obviously the challenge is in these institutions, they have procurement policies that they need to follow. They just can't say, okay, yeah, well, now we'll buy local food. There's a policy that, and so this is going to assist them in developing that. And of course, we started in Niagara, but then we all know 2 years ago what happened. So it didn't become front and center, it became at the back burner. So we're hoping that it's coming back to the forefront as we are in the process of building 2 new long-term care facilities here in Niagara. And if we can incorporate the purchase of local food for our local residents, wouldn't that be wonderful? So whoever had that question, feel free to reach out to me, and I can kind of get you some further, more finite information offline. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Woodavine. Yeah, that's a great way for us to remind everyone that, again, we will be sending out the contact information for each of our fantastic regional council representatives here today. Because we are almost at time and we want to be very respectful that everybody has other things to do at 5 o'clock. We're going to wrap up the Q&A section of the session right now. And it's actually my distinct pleasure to hand the floor over to Dolores Fabiano, who is the Executive Director of the Welland Pelham Chamber of Commerce, along with the rest of the South Niagara Chambers, and to Denise Potter, who's the Executive Director of the West Lincoln Chamber, for some closing remarks. But I'll hand it over to Dolores first. Over to you.
Well, thanks, Rebecca. That was an excellent session. Thank you so much to the councillors for participating. I just want to take a few moments to tell you a little bit about our Niagara Chamber partnership. The Chambers of Commerce from Fort Erie, Grimsby, Lincoln, Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake, Thorold, Port Coquitlam, Wainfleet, Welland, Pelham, and West Lincoln have a very unique relationship built on mutual respect of our organizations and a desire to provide meaningful support to all of our members across Niagara. Throughout the year, we co-host various learning and networking events. We utilize our collective voice to advocate on behalf of Niagara businesses, and we share best practices. In addition, we've created an associate membership program. This program allows businesses that have a membership in good standing with their home chamber to access an associate membership at a reduced rate with any of the other participating chambers. You can learn more about our partnership and how you can access the power of a region-wide network by visiting any one of our websites. And now I guess I'll turn it over to Denise.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dolores, very much. Just to close, so that we do get out of here by 5 o'clock, on behalf of our Chambers of Commerce, Grimsby, Lincoln, Welland, Pelham, and West Lincoln, I would like to extend a sincere thank you to all of you for attending our town hall with regional councillors. We know everybody's calendar is very busy, and we do appreciate this time that you were able to schedule to be with us. We trust you found this town hall informative with topics of interest and engaging. And of course, sincere appreciation extended as well to our 4 regional councillors, Councillor Fertich, Foster, Huson, and Woodavine, for updating us on these important topics affecting our community. If anybody here attending would like to have further conversation on any of these subjects, please do reach out directly to your local regional councillor. I know Rebecca spoke to that a little earlier on, but I'd like to reinforce it because it is important to continue this dialogue. This is just the initial discussions. We will be sending out an email shortly with the names and contact information of our councillors so that you can do that. And for the future, if you have any specific topics you'd like to see discussed at one of our future West Niagara Chamber town halls with our regional councillors, please reach out to your local chamber executive director, either Rebecca, Lindsey, Dolores, or myself, Denise. And thank you once again for being with us today. We appreciate that, and have a nice evening.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.